Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of a mini three-part series for programming in App Inventor Java Bridge. My name is Kevin, and today we are going to be starting a mini game called Mole Mash, and it's basically the touchscreen version of the carnival game Whack-A-Mole. So I'm going to be trying to explain some Java concepts as we go, some object-oriented programming concepts, but you should know at least the basics of Java. In this episode, we're going to set up our project and at least get the UI, the user interface, going. First thing we need to do is create our project. And to do that, I have Eclipse open now. This is what I'm going to be doing all my programming in. And you need to have already set up your Android SDK. I'll provide links down below to kind of guide you through how to do that. But anyway, the first thing we're going to do is right-click in this Project Explorer area and create a new Android project. I'm going to be calling it the Mole Mash tutorial. And this is where you're going to select your build target. So this is basically what Android OS version are you going to be developing for. And to keep it simple, since a lot of people are still running in the 2.x's, I'm going to select Android 2.1. So a package name in Java is basically a way of organizing your code. And typically it starts off with the website name. So for this though, I'm just going to call it com.tutorials, and this will be Mole Mash. And so basically each one of these words between the periods represents a folder name. It's basically just a hierarchy of folders, and that's how you're going to organize your code. So with all this set, I'm going to click Finish, and now we have our new Android project. So if you open it up and you go to the source code, you'll see we have this file called Mole Mash tutorial activity. This is basically your starting point for all your Android apps. One key difference though is we're using Java Bridge. So what we need to actually do is we need to include the Java Bridge jar, which I'll provide a link below for where to download it. But first thing you need to do is we need to create a libs directory. So to do that, I'm going to click on my Mole Mash tutorial project, right click it, and go to new folder. And call it libs. Make sure it's plural. It seems to have issues if you don't have it with an S at the end. So now you're going to just drag and drop your jar file into this libs folder and make sure you copy it. And finally, we want to add it to our build path, otherwise our program will not know where it's at. So to do that, just right-click the jar, go to Build Path, and add to Build Path. And now we're good to go. Okay, now we can actually get to the coding. Now, in a regular Android program, we extend activity and we implement this method called onCreate. But in Java Bridge, we actually don't do that. Instead of extending activity, we're going to be extending form. Now, form is basically a subclass of activity. It's unique to Java Bridge, and by being a subclass, that actually means that we get all of the properties of activity, but then we have the add-ons that Java Bridge provides for us. So the first thing it's doing is it's complaining that I haven't imported. So just hover over it and click Import. And now we're set up. So the main method for Java Bridge program is the void define method. Okay, so if I bring up the App Inventor version of the app we're going to be creating, I'm assuming a lot of you guys are familiar with App Inventor. This is basically what it looks like. Now, this define method is similar to your component designer. So basically, it's the main part of your program. It's where you're going to be initializing all of your objects. Objects meaning your canvas, your labels, and all that. That's what's going to be happening in the define method. So starting off here, the main part of our program is this canvas. Okay, so let's go ahead and just start off with that because that's the easiest thing to do. We're going to create a new instance variable of type canvas, and we're just going to call it game canvas. And again, you have to make sure you import it. And one thing to note here is we're using Java Bridge. So this is the package name that contains the library we're going to use. And you want to make sure you're using this com.google.devtools. That's actually specific to Java Bridge. This one, Android.graphics, is unique to just straight Android programming. So make sure you select the top one. Okay, so before we get to initializing everything, we actually need to implement our own game canvas. And this I'll talk about in another episode, but we need to do this so that we can actually handle touch events from the user. So I'm going to define my own game canvas class, and actually I'll just call it game canvas as well. And similarly to how form is a subclass of activity, this is going to be a subclass of canvas. And you can have it automatically override or add the constructor for a canvas object. And for now, that's all we need. We'll finish this up in the next episode. But now that we actually have our own class defined, we can initialize our game canvas. Now it's going to be expecting a parameter, this component container object, okay? And that is basically our form object. So all we have to do, because this class is a form, we can pass in this. And just for testing purposes, let's actually give it a different color background. And let's give it like a blue background. This is just so that we can see how much space is taking up. Okay. So there are two things left. We need to set the width and the height of the canvas. We don't want the canvas taking up the entire screen because we want to leave room for like your score button or maybe a reset button or things like that. So the height of my canvas, I'm going to start off at 600. And for the width, I'm going to actually have it take up the entire width. So to do that, because my form is a component container, it has a width. So I'm going to make sure this one actually fills the parent. Okay, so if we go ahead and run this, and if you look here, there's this run button, and you're going to want to run it as an Android application. So this might take a little while to start up. Okay, so as you can see, this blue area is where our game canvas is, and this white area is just the rest of the screen. This is where we're going to put our text labels and reset buttons and everything. So our canvas is now working. So let's at least get the mole sprite on the canvas. So to do that, we are going to create a new image sprite. And we're going to define it up here. And this is just going to be we'll call it mole sprite for now. And make sure to import it. Okay, so one thing we're going to want to do is we want to give it a picture of an actual mole. So to do that, I've already downloaded a picture. You can Google search your own picture if you want. But basically, I have this mole.png file, and I'm going to drag and drop it into my assets folder. Make sure you put it in here and make sure you select copy, because the assets folder is where Java Bridge is going to look for media files such as images. So now that I have my actual image in here, I can initialize my new mole sprite. So just like I did with the canvas, I'm going to create a new image sprite object. And here's the difference. So this also takes in a component container just like this game canvas did. But the image sprite is actually going to belong to the game canvas. So instead of passing in this, which would be the form object, I'm actually going to pass in the game canvas object. Okay? So two more things we need to do is we need to set it to show the mole image we just added to our project, and we need to set like an initial x and y coordinates to actually place the mole. So to set the picture, I'm going to use the picture method, and because I have the file in the assets folder, all I have to do is pass in a string of its name. And so mine was called mole.png. And lastly, what we need to do is we need to set the x and y coordinates. So to do that, I'm going to pass in the x, and if you look here, it's specifically looking for a double value. So when I type in my value, I'm gonna put in 10 as a default value. I'm gonna make sure I put a .0 and a D for double. Okay, the .0 specifies as a float, but what we actually want is a double, so we're going to append a D at the end. And similar to the y-axis, I'm just going to copy this down and change this to y. So now if I run the program, I should actually see a mole at positions 10, 10. Okay, and there's our mole on the screen at positions 10 and 10. So that's the end of this tutorial. The next tutorial, we are going to actually deal with user interaction. So we're going to start checking to see when the user touches the screen, and if they hit the mole, we'll have it increase our score label. Okay, I hope this tutorial was useful to you, and I'll see you next time.